Hello, and welcome to the Grade 5 ELA Weekly Tidbits. All materials are located on the bit.ly on your screen. This week, we're going to wrap up Unit 1 with lessons 9 through 13 of Module 2. And we're going to be finishing up our last blocks, the all block as well. Before we start this work and look at what these lessons look like, I want to ground us in this idea and a standard. So I'm going to go to the Grade 5 Standards Appendix. And I want us to look at grade W55. In W55, there's this idea of incorporating multiple sources. So this week, as a teacher, your lens is really on the integration of several sources. And what students are doing is they're synthesizing information from various perspectives. They're going to have to draw their own conclusions. Now, conclusions are different than inferences, as conclusions don't heavily rely on background knowledge. It's what is being read between the two sources. So I left a bunch of text-dependent questions here for you to check how students are doing with their sources this week. But I also have an if-then that I've noted is quite common in this. And one of that is reliability sources. So I left here a trust test for students to be able to use to decide if a source is reliable. And it looks something like this. They're just simple guiding questions to pass the test. Generally, this works, and if they pass these questions, it's probably a good source. So that's an easy strategy when students are looking at trusted sources. All right, let's look at our lessons. We're entering this week where we're preparing for this science talk. Now, I will say that the note catcher is really kind of funky almost. You're going to want to monitor that they're actually drawing and quoting. And while it doesn't say RL or RI51, you're going to want to make sure that what they're capturing here matches what it makes them think of. So they're drawing direct inferences with this piece. However, because it is quite a different note catcher, it can be really confusing. So a just-in-time support, if students struggle with simple directions or this is very new to them, before you partner them for independent work, ask them to do this on their own first and grapple with it, then call on students to help find evidence and write it on the note catcher. Rename the process you just did, and now they're prepared, or they should be prepared, to work independently as they just got that scaffold. The next day is a text-based science talk, so they are going to prepare for it. I would, before we go into this, talk about grouping of students. So if students that maybe need a little bit more support, perhaps put them in group round 2 so that they can observe round 1 and note those expectations. Another thing, before round 1 or 2 goes, make sure that they practice and have access to these sentence frames. All right, now we have that W55, right? So this is kind of an intense lesson, and the first source from the helpful rainbow links is not correct, or no, it is expired. So I went ahead and gave you a new updated link, and they're filling out this note catcher. Remember how we talked about formal and informal summaries? This would be like your informal summary. It's 2 sentences, right? I also wanted to point out that there's a model video from Miss Blackburn's class of this lesson as well, in case you're having a hard time just kind of visualizing of what this might look like in your classroom. And then we have the end of unit assessment, where they're still doing that web research and you're looking through the lens of W55. So are they drawing on multiple resources? Multiple resources is the name of the game in 5th grade. And then they'll have another text-based discussion. So it's part 1 of the assessment and part 2 of the assessment. Let's see how all block supports this work this week. All right, you're going to start with the word study, catch and release. So that first day, you're going to take students through the unpacking of the suffix ation. and then they'll create a Frayer model. When they're released the next day, they're going to be building that word exploration, but they're going to be generating their own sentences using exploration in context. Then you're going to introduce the suffix ology. Again, you'll unpack that word using technology as a model and go into your Frayer model, adding it to your affix lists. For writing practice, I love this one. Students have to write their own summary and then use the Rank Talk Write protocol. Now, this is one that if I was teaching this group, I'd want to get over and I want to make sure that I'm checking in on this group to see how they're doing. Because that next day, I'm going to support their work again that they were doing. This is really helpful, especially when we get multiple choice questions where there's 4 sentences that are all different summaries of a text. Having this process of analyzing which one is best is so necessary for mastery at that level. And then in the end, they're going to continue that summary work independently. All right, this week is free choice reading. They are in their reading, writing about their reading, and talking about their reading. I would recommend we focus on RI52 if I had to choose one, though I will say building morphemes and morphology is essential when learning to read at this level. That's it for this week. See you next week.